Three Tennessee basketball players reeled in 5 honors from the Southeastern Conference coaches. Who were they and what were those honors? Plus, Ward Wednesday here on this edition of Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, this edition of Locked On Vols, this Wednesday edition. Thanks so much for making it your first listen each and every day, available anywhere you get your podcast and on YouTube. You guys know the drill now. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, bet you're tired of me talking about it. Go ahead and subscribe, help out the show. That'd be a big, big help. Thanks so much for everyone who is continuing to do that. All right, so we got a fun show coming up. You had 3 Tennessee basketball players reel in some honors from the Southeastern Conference for their play in the regular season. We'll tell you all about that. Josh Ward catches up with the show in segment 2. And then in segment 3, we'll get into a couple of different things. One of my colleagues over at VolQuest.com, Rob Lewis, had an interesting comparison when breaking down Tennessee and another team that's looking to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Very interesting notes and why one is ranked ahead of the other. We'll get to that. Plus, the NCAA Rules Committee, they're not going to do anything about faking injuries. How that plays a factor into defending Josh Heupel's offense, I think we all know kind of where this is going. But that's the lay of the land here. Welcome into it. I am your host, Eric Kane. You can find me on Twitter at _Kaner and at Locked On Vols. If you're new to the show, I do radio in Knoxville, Tennessee, 99.1 The Sports Animal. Also, I work for Rivals, covering Tennessee football and recruiting at VolQuest.com. And, of course, your host here on Locked On Vols. So, Santiago Vescovi, first team, All-SEC. Kennedy Chandler, second team, All-SEC. Zakai Zeigler, All-Defensive team. And Zeigler as well as Kennedy both are named to the All-Freshman team. So quite the haul coming in here for the Tennessee Volunteers here in this as you just wrapped up the regular season. And this is from the coaches. There'll be a media poll as well. But a really, really good showing. Right off the bat, I will say, how in the world does Josiah-Jordan James not get named to the all-defensive team? Absolute robbery. You guys know me. I will carry water for that young man. I am such a believer in Josiah-Jordan James. I think he's one of the best. I think he's the glue that keeps everything holding together here for Tennessee. But how he was not named to the all-defensive team is just mind-boggling. Cannot believe that happened. But nonetheless, there's robbery every single year. But we'll focus on these guys that did make the all-SEC team. So Santiago Vescovi concluded the regular season as the SEC's leader in three-point field goal percentage at 44.5. I thought that was really, really good. Made three-pointers at 57 during conference play. That led the league. He averaged 14.3 points in conference play, which was very, very solid. You guys know that I talk about his consistency. He also averaged 3 assists per contest in conference play. So I thought that was really, really noteworthy for Santiago Vescovi here in this one. So he leads the way. He is a first-team All-SEC selection, and that comes in next with Kennedy Chandler. Kennedy Chandler is a second-team All-SEC selection. Of course, just a true freshman. 17 regular season SEC games. Chandler averaged 13.8 points per game, 4.4 assists, and 2.2 steals to go along with shooting 47% from the field. That is not too bad there. Zeigler, all-defensive team. We call him kind of the spark plug here at Tennessee, here on the Tennessee Beat. Came off the bench the majority of the season, really all the season, averaged 10 points a game, scored in double figures in 9 of those 11 conference games. And he also finished the regular season just 1 steal shy of the SEC lead during the conference play, averaging 2.2 takeaways per game, 40 steals in 18 SEC games. So that is pretty noteworthy. When you want to look at the teams overall, the first team All-SEC squad by the coaches, J.D. Notae, he led the way. Jalen Williams of Arkansas was also there. Those two from Arkansas. Walker Kessler of Auburn, Jabari Smith of Auburn, and Oscar Shibwe of Kentucky. You continue on, Tari Eason of LSU, Iverson Molinar of Mississippi State, Santiago Vescovi of Tennessee, and Scottie Pippen Jr. of Vanderbilt. That's the entire first team. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players on the first team. The second team, Jaden Shackelford of Alabama, Colin Castleton of Florida, who missed a lot of time, Ty Washington of Kentucky, who missed some time, Savar Wheeler of Kentucky, who missed some time, Darius Days of LSU, Kobe Brown of Missouri, Kennedy Chandler of Tennessee, and Quentin Jackson of Texas A&M. The all-freshman squad, J.D. Davidson of Alabama, Jabari Smith of Auburn, Ty Washington of Kentucky, Brandon Murray of LSU, Devin Carter of South Carolina, Chandler of Tennessee, and Zeigler of Tennessee. And then here's the five-man all-defensive team that does not have Josiah-Jordan James on it. Keon Ellis of Alabama, Jalen Williams of Arkansas, Charge, Walker Kessler of Auburn, led Auburn and led the SEC and led the nation in blocks this past year, so that's an easy one. Oscar Tshiebwe of Kentucky, and then Zakai Zeigler, of course, of Tennessee. The coach of the year was Bruce Pearl of Auburn. Player of the year, Oscar Tshiebwe of Kentucky. Scholar Athlete of the Year, Jordan Wright of Vanderbilt. Freshman of the Year, of course, is Jabari Smith of Auburn. Sixth Man of the Year is Tari Eason of LSU. A Defensive Player of the Year is Walker Kessler of Auburn. So, again, a lot of this is expected, but I do think one of the biggest snubs in all of this is Josiah-Jordan James not making the all-defensive team because of his ability to guard 1 through 5. He's a great rebounder. He averaged a couple steals a game. He is just kind of all over the place. Want to break this down even further here and tell you what this kind of means for the University of Tennessee. So as far as Santiago Vescovi is concerned, again, he averaged 14.3 points per game in conference play, 57 three-pointers made. That's averaging just a little over 3 a game. 44.5 three-point field goal percentage. That led the SEC. And for Vescovi, he's the third Vol to garner first-team All-SEC honors under Rick Barnes. That's kind of hard to believe, right? Just the third Vol under Rick Barnes to be named first-team All-SEC. Joins Grant Williams, who did it twice, 2018 and 2019, and Admiral Schofield in 2019 as well. Zeigler named the SEC All-Freshman team, also to the All-Defensive team. In SEC play, 10.1 points per game, 2.2 steals per game. Zakai Zeigler, only the fourth Vol ever to be selected to the All-SEC defensive team and the first to do it as a freshman. Here are the other Vols that have been named to the All-Defensive team in the history of Tennessee basketball. Juwan Smith in 2008. Josh Richardson in 2014 and 2015. He's had a nice little NBA career. E. Pons in 2020 and 2021. And now Zakai Zeigler in 2022. Again, the first one to ever do it as a true freshman. So I think that's saying a lot. And then again, Kennedy Chandler, the star freshman that came in, did not disappoint. Second team All-SEC and also to the All-Freshman squad. In SEC play, 13.8 points per game, 4.4 assists per game, 2.2 steals per game. He is the overall SEC leader in steals. Tennessee has just got a tremendous defensive backcourt in terms of defense. You got Kennedy Chandler, Zakai Zeigler, Santiago Vescovi's defense has improved an awful lot. You put it on the wing, you got Josiah-Jordan James. These guys have been getting it done. It's a big reason why Tennessee is where it is right now. So, again, Santiago Vescovi, first team All-SEC. Kennedy Chandler, second team All-SEC, all-freshman squad. Zakai Zeigler, all-defensive team and all-freshman squad. Congratulations to those players for the University of Tennessee. And I read you off what the entire team looks like, with the snub being Josiah-Jordan James. When we come back, Josh Ward will stop by. I want to let you know that we recorded this before the All-SEC teams came out, so we'll have to ask Josh next week about what he thinks of Tennessee's selections and, of course, how Tennessee fared in the SEC tournament. So we'll get to Josh here in just one moment. And we're talking March Madness, right? I mean, the SEC tournament, it is here, everybody. That means you need to start thinking right now about where you're going to be running your brackets through this year. Are you trying to go usual? Are you trying to be the best? We've done our homework here at Locked On, and we're going to run ours through runyourpool.com. Along with the standard brackets, Run Your Pool offers game types like Survivor and Pick'ems. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel when making your picks, more than the CBS brackets or the ESPN brackets do as well. If you've got a business, Run Your Pool can help you take some of that madness and magic and play alongside your employees, hell, even some of your clients, right? Clearly, we believe in Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there, and there's no truer test than that. So if you want to play alongside us for a chance at a cash prize, Join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool of your family and friends. Enter Pure Madness at checkout, and for $10 off your custom pool. All details will be made available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon. Enter Pure Madness for a chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. And talking about March Madness and all that, let's give a look at Stat Hero. Man, do I love March Madness. I love those brackets, but I can't remember the last time I actually went deep or, won any money. Are you guys thinking the same thing? I'm hedging my bets this year at Stat Hero with the NCAA Pick'ems contest. Stat Hero's NCAA single game Pick'ems pits the star players against one another, an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have all the advantage, all right? Start focusing on the players you know the best with the gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or those funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their games with their game winners 4 times more often. Why? Because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you're going up against. In addition to the pick'ems, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through and take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on, and with the sets of players that you choose from, Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. It's a simple, sleek gameplay that you can be playing in just a number of minutes. This is what daily fantasy is meant to be. So right now, what I want you to do, sign up for free at stathero.com/lockedon for 100% instant deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. stathero.com/lockedon for terms and conditions still apply. But again, that's all for a 100% instant deposit match. Give it a try. That's at stathero.com.
Want to welcome Josh Ward back to the program here for a little Ward Wednesday conversation and tons to talk about. Josh, of course, the host of Sports 180 on The Sports Animal, former host here at Locked On Vols. Josh, we'll start with football. Kelsey Pope, the new wide receivers coach.
Yeah, Tennessee decides to promote from within. They looked at candidates on the outside and decided that Pope's the best option, and you do have familiarity with the players who are coming back to Tennessee. We'll see what he's able to do in recruiting. I would be absolutely lying, and I think a lot of people would be if they said this is how it will play out on the recruiting trail. But I do think that you'll hear positive things from recruits who have been able to speak to him quickly, and I think he has the right kind of energy, and I think he is a guy that is respected within the building, and the offense itself will keep on keeping on. So whether it was going to be Kelsey Pope or somebody from the outside or Cody Burns coming back, my prediction would have been that this offensive scheme would be able to get receivers open. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to go put up 35 on Alabama. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I don't think that we will see noticeable change, at least in the wrong direction, because of this hire. So it's a good opportunity for Kelsey Pope, no doubt, to work at a big-time program in an offense that will be successful. Yeah,
kind of in that regards, I'm really trying not to devalue what this position is, because obviously you work with these receivers, you want to see them improve, route running, all that type of stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, everything you just said about the system and all that, I mean, in my opinion, it's like, who cares? Who cares? Like, you're going to be taken care of, right? Especially with March, it's a wide receivers coaching position. Who cares? I saw some outrage. I'm just like, yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah, it's an important position. Every full-time position coach is. I wouldn't rank it the highest, though. I'm going to go up front with both of those position groups, offensive and defensive line, when I talk about you really need the right guy in those spots, I think. And then you're going to trust the quarterback coaching. And I like Alex Golish as an assistant coach, too, who's helping run the offense and coach tight ends. So, again, every position is important. I just don't think that this changes anything in the conversation with the big picture. How many games Tennessee will win this year, how Tennessee will recruit, big picture. I mean, with a couple of individual battles maybe, but the ultimate goal, to get Tennessee back to a championship level, I don't think was going to be affected by the hire at this position.
Also, too, I mentioned, like, in terms of recruiting, sure, proof's going to be in the pudding. We'll see how he is on the trail, but at the end of the day, it's if Tennessee wants a wide receiver, Heupel's involved. Golish is involved. It's not just Cody Burns or Kelsey Pope. So
no doubt. And I also, when I come back to recruiting, I think, can you get the big guys up front? Can you really effectively recruit at linebacker and in the secondary, because you need more speed, you need more athletes? That's where I think high-level recruiting, when we come back to the rankings, and again, the guys that rank highest on the coaches board, that's where I think it's going to matter the most over the next few years. I think they recruited pretty well at receiver this past year with the incoming freshman class. But that's actually the position group where I'm not that concerned with getting absolute superstars. You want some of those guys, but I think they'll be able to help develop and scheme up no matter who's at that position.
Kind of the fear for a couple weeks now was that there was not going to be a spring game. That came to fruition earlier this week when the university announced that there's not going to be a typical spring game, still going to try to make the best of a bad situation, kind of an all Vols type weekend, baseball, tennis, track, and they're gonna put the scrimmage up on two jumbotrons in the Ball Village and all that. So overall thoughts on Tennessee trying to make this kind of a fan fest, whereas what more could you do? Neyland Stadium's under construction, Nissan Stadium was out of the picture, Chattanooga was out of the picture. It's kind of like we didn't have many options, right?
Yeah, probably trying to do the best that they can in a situation that is not ideal if you're trying to put together a big fan event, because the easiest way to do that is have a spring game, and that's not really on the table in Knoxville. So have some kind of event. Honestly, Eric, I would say, what's the weather that day? Because if you have really good weather, then people will be excited to just get out and be around and celebrate what's going on with Tennessee athletics, because I think right now fans are really happy with overall what's happening with UT sports. If it's a rainy day, if it's for some reason a little chillier, then you're probably not going to have as good of a crowd, because people will be more likely to stay home for that. So I don't think it changes anything in terms of fan excitement about the football program. It's unfortunate that you can't have the normal spring day, because that is all about the fans. It's not about the team. It's not about getting the best work in possible. I'm sure coaches, if you got them off the record, would say I would scrap a spring game and I would just have 15 spring practices. But it's about the fan event. So Tennessee has good marketing people. They have good people, smart people in the athletic department that will do everything they can to make it a fun event for fans. And if fans go out there, my guess is that they'll have a good time.
Josh Ward, host of Sports 180 on 99.1 The Sports Animal, every weekday 12 to noon to 3, and former host here of Locked On Vols.
Some people wish it was 12 to noon.
12 to noon. That's all I can take,
Josh.
right?
Come on. Yeah.
Josh, it's been 5 minutes. Let's get to basketball now. SEC tournament looming. Vols pegged at the 2 seed. We'll have to go through Kentucky to get to the title game, which will likely be Auburn, but of course Arkansas there as well. Chances, what do you like about him for Tennessee in the SEC tournament?
Yeah, good chance. You have good competition you have to go up against. That Kentucky game, assuming it happens on Saturday, is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
Fans know that. Both teams were able to win at home. Both teams were great at home this season, unbeaten at Rupp and at Thompson-Boling Arena. So let's see. Rick Barnes against John Calipari. Tennessee's done quite well. But I also like Kentucky's roster the best in the SEC. If we looked at resumes from this past season, I went Kentucky, Tennessee, then Auburn, actually. Auburn, I think, is in a slightly better spot for the bracket to try to get to Sunday. So, think about 3 years ago, Tennessee played that big Saturday game against Kentucky, came down to the end, Tennessee got the win, emotional win, and then just didn't have as much left in the tank on Sunday. So could that play out again if Tennessee's able to win Saturday? Maybe so. But Tennessee, I think, if it wins Friday, is assured of getting at least a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. There's the potential chance to move up to a 2, but you need to win 1, maybe 2 games during the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And obviously, if you win Sunday, you've just won an SEC tournament championship for the first time in more than 40 years. So that'd be incredible. But I like Tennessee's shot to go in if it gets the guard play it needs, if it defends the way that it's able to, and then obviously if Tennessee's able to knock down shots. That's both from the field and the free throw line.
All right, last thing, Josh. Tennessee undefeated at home. A lot of fun times at Thompson-Boling Arena this year. But now we head to those neutral sites. Tennessee is 1-2 at neutral sites this year. Not a true road game left in the season, but it's tournament time. Biggest fear, for the Volunteers away from Thompson-Boling Arena. How for Tennessee to make a deep run in both the SEC tournaments and the NCAA tournament, Tennessee must do what?
Tennessee has to be good enough, at least from the outside, because to this point this season, Tennessee has not been good enough around the basket. Now, I would say Josiah-Jordan James attack, because there's somebody that maybe around the basket can create something offensively.
Attack.
But if Tennessee goes cold from the outside, what is plan B? You have Kennedy Chandler, who can break down defenses and get to the basket. He had a essentially game-winning shot against Auburn doing that. But can you do that enough for 40 minutes? I don't know. So if Tennessee's good enough, they've actually been probably better than people realize, especially as the season has gone along, shooting from the outside. Now, a lot of that's going to come back to how they shot at Thompson-Boling Arena.
Second best in the SEC.
Right. So these concerns, though, that we're offering up for Tennessee are applicable to most of the teams Tennessee's going to play, because I promise their fans are saying, oh, man, going away from home, how are we going to shoot? Sightlines. So it applies to all these teams. What I love is Tennessee's defense. It will travel, and that will give Tennessee a chance to play with anybody. That's why you should at least like your chance against Kentucky and like your chance if you go up against Auburn. But the big guys have to step up. There's a long list of to-dos to be able to go on a run in March, especially starting next week. But this week, do you shoot well enough? Do you continue to defend the way you do? Stay out of foul trouble with a couple of key guys. Vescovi and Josiah-Jordan James, I think, would be high on that list. But that's where I would start the conversation. Shoot well enough from the outside, because your opponent will have a chance to not shoot well at all.
It's crossover season. Lots going on the Hill right now for Tennessee Athletics, and Josh has got it covered every weekday, noon to 3 on Sports 180. I heard last Thursday and Friday the biggest ratings you ever had on the show. This Thursday and Friday trying to top that. Just a lot going on in Sports 180.
You might have your weeks mixed up. I'll look into it. But, don't miss Sports 180 later this week. We had Eric stop by on Monday's show, and he will co-host with me on Thursday and Friday. So we're having a lot of fun. And Thursday and Friday this week, because tournament games will be going on during the day, will be a blast. And Friday, of course, will lead you up to Tennessee against whomever, South Carolina or Mississippi State.
Going to be a whole lot of fun as March Madness is officially here. And I know we like to sit back, watch those March Madness games, whether it be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and indulge in a nice Built Bar. Built Bar, safe and healthy alternative to that of a candy bar. You know, candy bars got somewhere around 240 calories, right? But a Built Bar, looking at 130 calories, 4 net sugars, 4 grams, but 17 total grams of protein, right? And it's got tons of flavors. You got cookies and cream, you got mint chocolate, you got raspberry, coconut, whatever the case may be. If you're looking to lose or maintain weight with swimsuit season right around the corner, it was just in the 80s earlier this week. Now I know there's some flurry chances for Saturday coming up, but it's that time of the year to where you start thinking about being around a body of water. Built Bar can help you get there, and it's good for you. Tons and tons of protein. So tons of selection, plus new types of variety of Built Bars coming out all the time. If they think that it's going to taste good, they are going to create it at Built.com. Go to Built.com and enter the code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. That's Built.com, LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. Again, that's Built.com.
Also want to tell you guys about Rock Auto. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend up to 50%, sometimes even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or car dealership when you can get them yourself at rockauto.com. Rock Auto is a family business serving it to do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Always reliably low prices for every single customer. They've got everything you can possibly need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor rolls, even new carpets. Go explore the easy-to-use website today and find out the solution to all of your auto part needs for your car or your truck. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or your truck. Right Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit my friends at rockauto.com. Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. That was Josh Ward, former host here of Locked On Vols, current host of Sports 180 on The Sports Animal. Always appreciate Josh for his time. And we're going to dive into a couple different things here in segment 3. We're going to be quick, though. All right, so I mentioned Rob Lewis. He put a note out there at VolQuest.com, also on the VolQuest podcast that debuted on Tuesday. And it's comparing Tennessee with a team that is supposed to be kind of a 2 seed. Like, they're never going to fall from that 2 line, right? The team is Duke. You guys know me. I have a history. I have a background with Duke, but this just goes to show you how I'm fair, right? I mean, I am so objective when it comes to my reporting, obviously, but also my commentary. So some really interesting notes here. Duke is all but certain a 2 seed, right? But why is that? Why is Duke never fallen? Why is Duke there to begin with? Why is a team like Duke with a resume that's not really even that impressive? Why are they all but guaranteed a 2 seed from Joe Lunardi? Let's take a look. Tennessee's record is 23-7, 14-4 in SEC play. Duke's record is 26-4, 16-4 in ACC play, which we can all agree is very, very down. Duke, by and large, the best team in the ACC. North Carolina's coming along. It's a tournament team now, especially after that win inside Cameron Indoor over the weekend. You feel good about Wake Forest, kind of the direction it's going. Steve Forbes got locked up a couple days ago with a contract extension, but gosh, that conference, what used to be so good, It's not as good, at least not this year. Here's the net ranking, comparing it with Tennessee and Duke. Tennessee 8, Duke 9. The net non-conference strength of schedule. Tennessee's is 15th. Duke's is 110th. That's the net non-conference strength of schedule. Tennessee's is 15th. Duke's is 110th. Quad 1 record. Tennessee is 8-7. Duke is 5-1. Quad 2 record. Tennessee is 4-0. Duke is 5-3. Quad 3 record. Tennessee is 5-0. Duke is 9-1. Have a loss there in Quad 3. Quad 4 record. Tennessee is 6-0. Duke is 7-0. Obviously, Duke is playing more Quad 3 and 4 teams than Tennessee combined. Tennessee played 11 combined Quad 3 and 4 teams this year. Duke played a combined 17. The KenPom offensive efficiency rating, Tennessee is 43rd. Duke is 5. Obviously, it's a really, really talented offensive team. KenPom's defensive efficiency rating, Tennessee is 3rd. Duke is 27. So, Rob did a nice job of laying this out in the podcast and putting a note at volquest.com, really just breaking it down like, hey, here's where Tennessee is. Here's where Duke is. Which resume looks better? It's no comparison, right? Tennessee's resume looks a whole lot better. So it's not just for Tennessee. For a team like Tennessee, there's other teams there that on that line, like Villanova, Texas Tech, maybe even Providence, some other, Arkansas is behind now. But why is Duke just assumed to get a 2 seed? What if Duke doesn't win the ACC tournament championship? It won the ACC outright. It's the overwhelming favorite at -115 to win the ACC championship tournament. I think Carolina's at plus 245 or somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that. But what if Duke doesn't win the ACC tournament? Is it still going to be a 2 seed? I don't know. Why? Why is that the case when Tennessee's resume is clearly better? So I found that very, very interesting. Rob does believe that if Tennessee gets to Sunday, Tennessee's a 2 seed. Doesn't even have to win the championship. But Rob does believe that if Tennessee gets to Sunday in the SEC tournament, Tennessee will be a 2 seed. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure if that's the case. I don't know if that will happen. I think Tennessee will need to win the SEC tournament to jump up to the 2 line. I still think that might be slim, at least right now. Things can change, obviously. So very, very interesting. Rob did a great job of digging up those numbers and putting it out there on the VolQuest podcast and, of course, at volquest.com. Last thing we want to talk about here. This came in a Friday afternoon news dump a couple of days ago, but about faking injuries in college football. Okay, so the NCAA announced Friday that it will not add rules for the 2022 season that would give game officials the ability to penalize teams that it deems to be faking injuries during games. The NCAA went on to clarify this in a broader statement. The committee considered several in-game options to address this, including altering the injury timeout rule to remove the injured student-athlete from more than just one play, which is the current rule. The concept was debated at length, but the committee was concerned with the additional issues that would be created. It did not want to encourage players to continue to participate when injured. So, we all get frustrated with teams that fake injuries. Tennessee, with a high-octane, fast-paced offense, sees it more than others. We all know the other team in the SEC that does it more than anybody else, that being obviously the Ole Miss Rebels. Lane Kiffin, in typical Lane Kiffin fashion, a little troll job to Tennessee whenever this was out there on Twitter. So it is what it is. By the way, there's this guy on VolQuest on the general quarters that anytime there's a Lane, I think he thinks I'm in love with Lane Kiffin. I don't know whatever gave anybody that impression, but I think it's hilarious that it sounds like that guy's in love with me, to be completely honest. So if you're hearing this right now, I don't even know your username. I forgot. I think it's kind of silly that Lane Kiffin would quote tweet that. I think it just shows that he's a loser. But nonetheless, what are you going to do about this, right? It's an issue in college football. And I want you guys to know, and you guys aren't dumb. You guys see it too. I mean, Tennessee's not oblivious to this. Tennessee does it too. Okay, Tennessee absolutely does it too. Have you ever seen an injured guy in PAT as much as you've seen with Tennessee? Do you think that's just coincidence? Absolutely not. It's to rest the defense, trying to get that TV time out. I mean, really, think about it, guys. So Tennessee does it too. Now, does Tennessee do it as much? No, I wouldn't say that. Tennessee definitely doesn't do it as much as Ole Miss. Definitely doesn't do it as much as Penn State. Definitely doesn't do it as much as some of the other schools around the country. But, everybody does. It's my point. It's a problem. Everyone does it. But what are you going to do, right? It's such a tough ask to sit there and have in-game officials determine who's injured and who's not. I mean, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, right? Just like you can't assume a double play 4-6-3 up the middle. You can't assume someone's hurt. You can't assume someone's faking an injury. You just simply can't. So it's tough. I understand. I actually understand the NCAA coming out and say, hey, we don't have a solution for this right now. Now, I think the NCAA should have been putting days and days and days and days and days of, stacked up since the end of the season to figure it out. But I understand if you don't have a solution for it right now, because I don't have a solution for it right now. It's just one of those subjects to where it's kind of nitpicky. I am not for taking the player out for that entire series. I am not for taking that you go down injured, you can't come back in for 2 series. I completely disagree with that. And I'll tell you one example why. If you remember Tennessee's game against South Carolina, about midway through the season this past year, it was at Neyland Stadium. There was a long drive that South Carolina went on. I want to say 10, 13 play drive, went about 70, 75 yards all the way down to the goal line. It was right before it was right before Shane Beamer had his defensive lineman try to throw that pass, and it was intercepted. So it was earlier in that drive, Byron Young came out limping, or Byron Young went down with an injury. He had to go out and miss a few plays. Okay. He came back in later in that drive because it was so long. Again, it was like 12, 13 play drive. He came back in and had a critical third down stop later in that drive. Per this rule, if you say, well, the player has to leave for that drive, or the player has to miss the next 2 drives if you're injured, Byron Young wouldn't be able to come in there and make that play. That's just one example, right? I'm not for that, because again, you can get a quick stinger and feel like your world is ending. And then, it'll go numb. You go back in, quite frankly. You can get the wind knocked out of you and feel like you can't breathe for 30 seconds, and then you're completely fine. You could sprain your ankle, a high ankle sprain, and adrenaline is going that you'll be fine in 2 plays and go back in and then have to deal with it after the game. That's football, right? So I don't know the answer to this. One thing I did throw out, and I'll end on this. One thing I did throw out on the starting lineup a couple days ago. This is just me spitballing here, because, again, I don't have an answer. What if the NCAA, you still can't do anything in game, okay? So this might be going on in game, might affect the way the game is played, the flow of it, all that type of stuff, and that's frustrating. What if there was a committee member or committee subcommittee members, there would have to be more than one person, that took the time and reviewed all of the fake injury appeals? So you can do that right now. You can send in tape where you think someone's faking an injury, and you can send it to the NCAA. There's no punishments for that right now. At least you could send in the tapes and stuff, but there's no knowledge of a punishment right now. That might change. But what if there was a subcommittee that reviewed all of those tapes? Say Tennessee said, Ole Miss faked this injury and this injury and this injury. We're going to send it to the NCAA. What about that Monday and Tuesday? This subcommittee came out and said, all right, Tennessee, we reviewed the 4 plays you sent in from Ole Miss. We deemed that 3 of the 4, those players faked injuries, and we don't have evidence to say that this other guy over here was faking an injury. What we're going to do is we're going to fine Lane Kiffin $10,000 for each faked injury. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if that's even possible. But can't the NCAA fine the heck out of a head coach whenever that happens? Because I'm not saying Lane Kiffin's encouraging it. It sure looks like it. And I'm not just saying that it's not just Lane Kiffin. It's so many other people. It's so many other coaches out there. I'm not saying that they're encouraging it, but I bet you if you take $10,000 out every time that it's deemed that it was a fake injury, coaches are going to be saying, hey, no more, or you ain't playing, right? That'll put into it. That's just me thinking outside the box. Hit him in the checkbook, man. Hit him where it hurts. $10,000 every time there's a fake injury to the head coach, not the school, to the head coach. I don't know. That will never happen, but that's just something I thought of. So that doesn't change the narrative of the in-game, but it does have some severe consequences to where, hey, you do this, you ain't going to play for me anymore. So that's just me thinking. What's the ending resolution for this? Well, there's not one right now. It's same old, same old. And Tennessee fans should continue to expect teams to fake injuries against this high-powered offense, because Tennessee goes so quick. These defenses can't sub. These defenses can't get a breath. These defenses can't put into different personnel packages. And so you just drop down and say you got a cramp. So that's another thing. You get a cramp, you're fine 2 plays later after you get some water and stretch it out. It is what it is. So we'll see what happens. And again, it's everybody. It's not just Ole Miss. It's not just Penn State. They might do it more. Tennessee does it too. Vanderbilt does it too. Everybody does it. It's a college football problem right now, and it needs to be addressed. And right now, the NCAA, according to its announcement on Friday, is not addressing it right now. All right, fun show. Big thanks to Josh Ward for stopping by and chatting with us here on Locked On Vols. Guys, Congratulations to Santiago Vescovi, Kennedy Chandler, and Zakai Zeigler on the postseason awards from the coaches in the Southeastern Conference. Some interesting notes. Big hat tip to Rob Lewis for the Vol Quest podcast and the note on the general quarters about comparing Tennessee's resume to Duke's resume and why it's all but locked up. Duke is a 2 seed, Tennessee's a 3 seed. I found those very, very interesting. And of course, talking here about faking injuries. Guys, really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for making Locked On Balls your first listen. Now, check out Ryan Tracy, former NFL quarterback Eric Crocker on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Insights and analysis from college football players to the NFL front offices. It's available anywhere you get your podcast. Make that your second listen each and every day, of course, after Locked On Balls being your first listen. We got 2 more big shows coming up. We'll look ahead to the SEC tournament. I will give you my bracket, my winners. The plan right now is to hopefully be in position, depending on my work schedule, to where I can record an immediate post-game podcast after each game Tennessee plays in the SEC tournament. That is the hope. That's the plan right now. Stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter @_Canner. All right, guys, appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk again tomorrow.